4ETV. I am Dr. Mark with my much more beautiful, wonderful, and intelligent better half, Dr. Michele. And we're here, people like to call us M&M without the sugar. We do try to live that out. Obviously, have we ever had sugar? Well, yes. Are we going to have sugar again? Of course. We're just not going to have it in abundance because we know it's very toxic. It's part of the standard American diet. The standard American diet is causing us to die, literally from the inside out. So we want you to know that we're trying to equip you, we're trying to empower you, and the 4E philosophy is about equipping you from a totality of the circumstances to create a sense of peace. It kind of looks something like this, that there are 4 parts of our physical bodies. There is a physical part, an emotional part, an intellectual part, and a spiritual part, and they are all interdependent. They're connected in that way. One's dependent on the other. For example, we could be suffering physically, causing us to suffer mentally, causing us not to be able to learn anything intellectually, causing us not to be able to hear the voice of God and suffer spiritually. The same token, we could be healthy physically, we could be healthy emotionally, be nice and balanced, we could be receiving new information, able to process and learn new things, and God can speak because our ears are tuned in to Him and His Word, and we can grow, most importantly, spiritually. But it's like a 4-legged chair. You pull one leg out, it's not going to stand. That's how the interdependence of these factors work, and we want you to be equipped with what we do and what we teach and what we stand for to really spend time towards the growth of these 4 pieces on a daily basis, because if you spend time, intentional time on these 4 areas on a daily basis, you will see yourself be in a position called wellness. And that's what we like to say for peace. We want you to be in peace. This world's chaotic, man. We want you to be in peace. And we're going to try to do our best to equip you with that. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's very, very complex and so involved, it might take a while to get through it. We probably won't get through it all today, but we want to give you a great understanding of the digestive process. The digestive process is something that begins in the mouth and finishes through the course of the whole body, but there's little processes through the course of the way that can't get interrupted. If they get interrupted, it causes a system disruption. And when that disruption occurs, it causes every other systems to operate, because the digestive process is more or less a way that we put nutrients in our mouth and they're broken down and then, of course, utilized in areas of need to make our systems work. We talked many times about fatigue and even cellular fatigue, and the cellular nutrients, they come in our system through nutrition and even through supplementation, but they have to get processed and digested in order to be absorbed properly. So this system is so important, it's critical. And then in this digestive system, it's really cool to understand that it's going to be complicated. We're going to get through it, but we're trying to explain it in a way that you really get, and it really changes your way you look at food and what it's supposed to do. So before we talk about that, it's important to understand that all these bodily systems, even the digestive system, is made and designed by God Himself. And many times we see His principles in His Word mimicked by the processes of our bodies, and I'll explain that in just a moment. I'll explain that like this. There's a scripture I want to touch on today during our time together. It's in the book of Philippians. Philippians chapter 1. And I've got my Bible, and I want to thank you for being here with us today. I want you to just kind of sit down and relax wherever you are. If you're in front of a computer, in front of a TV, your iPad, or even your iPhone, and you're watching us right now, I want you to sit down and just relax, as we want you to at least have, 25 minutes plus of some good spiritual food to chew on. This will encourage you. This will help you grow. I guarantee you that. So we're going to be looking at Philippians chapter 1 and verse 6. Just one verse today, but there's so much there. Remember, we're talking about how, God's principles, what He says in His Word, is mimicked many times by these processes He's made and designed in our bodies every day, and we've never really watched the link between the two. So as I read this verse and explain this, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, it's important to understand that Philippians is in the New Testament. I want you to know that everything that we do here is from the Word of God. Philippians is a chapter in the New Testament written by the Apostle Paul. He is writing this from a place that is probably not very fun. He's writing it from prison. And even though he's writing it from prison, it's a very encouraging letter to the church at Philippi and believers everywhere. So he's trying to encourage them while he's in a place of what some would say discouragement. So I find that very fascinating. But he writes these words in verse 6 that are so poignant and so powerful in regard to what God starts, he finishes. So as we read this verse, just listen to the power behind this. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. What that means is this. What God starts, he's going to finish. He didn't leave undesigned stuff. His word is true, and he absolutely cannot lie. His plans for you from start to finish won't be altered. They will be consistent. The only way his plans can get altered is by our own actions or inactions. He's got a plan. Our actions come in. They divert the plan. And even though he might have planned this, our choices have made it this. But what he starts in us, he promises to finish, but our choices can alter things occasionally. We can be rebellious. We can be sinful. We can go a direction just because we don't want to listen anymore. We can fall away. We can drift away. And his plans can get somewhat altered. But what he started, he is going to finish. If we don't follow God's plan, his plans still work, yes. But maybe not in the intended way, and maybe not the best way for us. Even though everything that we know works out for the good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose, as according to his word in Romans 8:28, we know that our ways, man's ways, get in the way of God's ways. And we know that God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are better and higher than our ways. So our ways kind of get in the way sometimes, as well as our will gets in the way, because God's will is perfect. Our will is flawed. But we want our minds, our hearts, our ways to line up with his. We want our plans to line up with his. When our plans line up with his, they will succeed. So Paul is encouraging everyone from a place of prison to be confident that what God starts, he will finish. His promises are true, not just for one or two or the select few, but for all of us. Friend, listen. God's promises are true for you. They're true for you, and what he started in you, he will finish in you. So trust that. Believe that that's his words. But just like we can mess things up in the spiritual realms by our inaction or just dysfunction in our lives, we can mess things up physically in this process. What God starts, he finishes. I'm tying it to the digestion process. What is started is supposed to finish, but we mess it up sometimes. When it messes up, it has consequences. Just like us messing it up in the spiritual realms, it has consequences. So let's kind of dive in here all together and try to really understand this extremely important process that's called the digestive process. So Dr. Michele, this is a massive system, and we were studying on this in preparation for today, and it was just like overwhelming. I never, even though we kind of know it, we never really realized how the depth and the intricate details that God put together in constructing and designing and planning out this digestive system, that when we put food in, he designs it for it to go through a certain process so that it can have the maximum effect. So let's just kind of dive in this. I kind of want you to explain this so everyone can really understand what the digestive process is really about.
Without the digestive process, we kind of think about it like this. The digestive system is kind of like a city's power plant. That is where your body actually gets its energy from. It comes from the breakdown of the nutrition in the digestive tract. So it's very important to understand how the food that you eat impacts the rest of your system. If you eat food that is garbage, your body is going to function like a garbage truck. If you eat food that is high octane fuel, you will drive or live your life in a race car type vehicle. Our bodies function off about a half a ton of food a year. That's several hundred pounds. That's a lot of food to go through this thing we call the digestive tract. And the digestive tract does not have a voice. It can't really tell you, oh, that's not good for me. Oh, I don't like that. That's not good stuff. Usually it will show up with dysfunction or dis-ease, disease like gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn, or bloating, gallbladder disease, things that take you to the doctor, and it's all because the digestive system doesn't have a voice. It can't tell you that you need to turn your nutritional processes around. So we want you to start to understand that food is nutrition. Food is what either helps the digestive tract be healthy or what will break the digestive tract down. And if you take in food that is unhealthy day after day after day, all of a sudden the bowel becomes irritable. We have this thing called irritable bowel. And we've talked about cells before, like eye cells, hair cells, liver cells, and kidney cells. Well, guess what? Your digestive tract is also lined with intestinal cells that digest for you. These cells are very, very, very close together. They are so close together, they are like glued together. But when we partake in a nutritional program or a diet that is very unhealthy, it starts to burn, if you will, or agitate, if you will, these cells. And these cells start to break apart or get agitated and become leaky. And then the digestive tract does no longer act as this protective barrier. Now we are starting to leak things into the system that can perhaps set us up for autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's thyroiditis and lupus, etc. and otherwise, when these things are coming back door from an unhealthy gut called a leaky gut, which is all related to our standard American unhealthy lifestyle, which we are aiming in our clinical practice to turn around from the ground up and turn it into a new American lifestyle, the standard American diet, to the new American lifestyle, where we teach you about the digestive processes.
And so if we, putting good food in our system is important, but that's not the end of the story. I mean, that food has to be broken down and then utilized there. But if we have a dysfunction going on, even though we're putting good food in, it may not be broken down and digested at all, correct?
Correct. So along the digestive tract, certain digestive processes start to happen. Believe it or not, digestion actually starts in your mouth with chewing. Chewing actually begins to break food down with a digestive enzyme that's formed in the saliva called amylase. So if you don't properly chew your food, your stomach is delivered this bolus of food down the swallow pipe, the esophagus. It's delivered in a manner that's not really ready for the stomach to receive it yet. So we have to focus on chewing our food to aid the processes of digestion in the beginning. And then once it hits the stomach, it is now in an acid medium. That hydrochloric acid begins to break certain proteins down in the food that you've eaten, and it becomes what's called digestive chyme. And then that chyme goes from the stomach, or the holding tank of the stomach, into the small intestine. This small intestine has millions and trillions of little cells that are on top of what are called villi, and these cells actually contain digestive enzymes that are secreted into the intestinal tract to further break your food down with the assistance of the bile that comes from the gallbladder and the pancreatic enzymes that come from the pancreas. So you can see it's a very complex process that happens in order for food to be fully digested, starting in the mouth with enzymes such as amylase, hitting the gut, the stomach, and adding a little hydrochloric acid there. Then we add the enzymes from the pancreas and the bile from the gallbladder, and now the intestinal enzymes continue to make that digestive process happen. Well, the importance of that is to break food down into the smallest components that are actually necessary for vital life functions, to actually be transported across the intestinal membranes into the bloodstream, transported to the liver so that the liver can say, this is good stuff, bad stuff, either eliminate it or send it to the rest of your system to allow your system to thrive off good nutrition. Once it has gone through this process, then your body says, okay, well, I'm done with it, and it moves it into the colon, your large bowel, and it starts to ready it for excretion. Now,
When it starts in the mouth, you mentioned chewing food. Can you tell everyone how much you need to chew? Does it mean like chew it 3 times and gulp it down? Or what does that mean? How much we chew the food?
I always say chew your food until it turns into soup. Once it's soup, you can swallow your food.
And that takes some time now. And so let's look at this under the premise of today's society. Okay, so here we are in today's society that's moving fast. And we are grabbing fast food. We can't wait at the restaurant 2 minutes. The waiter hasn't came over without getting angry. We don't spend 30 minutes sitting down talking, much less eating food. So the importance of chewing food, even though we know it's important, it's been neglected. So we've blown the start of the process. The process cannot finish well because it started poorly. It started way behind. So the poor start, meaning not chewing our food enough, is causing the digestive dysfunction to begin and even thrive with inflammation because we're not chewing our food. So what that means is we need to slow down and chew our food. Just slow. You'll find yourself eating less. It takes about 20 minutes for the stomach to tell the brain that you're full. Now, how many buffet lines can you go through in 20 minutes? A lot. But if you just chew your food, I find people, we were talking, it was a holiday season recently, and someone said to me, well, I was cooking and I snacked so much, I kept sampling everything, and they said, by the time I got to the main meal, I wasn't hungry. I'm thinking, duh, that's what it's supposed to be. It took time to chew this stuff and savor it.
It takes 20 minutes for the stomach to talk to the brain. So that's why we're always exhausted by the time we finish that Thanksgiving meal. You go sit on the couch, and now your brain is finally in tune with what your stomach has to say.
All right, so you mentioned something when this is chewed, okay, the food is chewed, and it gets to the stomach. If the stomach becomes dysfunctional, you mentioned this thing called leaky gut or hyperpermeable membrane in the gut. What are some symptoms of that? So if people are out there going, well, that may be me, what are they looking for?
Some of the things that can be associated with a dysfunctional gut or a leaky gut are fatigue, sleepiness, depression. It can be abdominal gas and bloating, a feeling of burping, that you're burping your food or you're refluxing your food after you eat it, slow recovery time in the gym.
That's a lot of stuff. So, I see people, every day that are tired, that are beat down, that are wore down, that are talking about these symptoms, and they're trying to do something about it from a different standpoint. They're trying to get a different workout, get a different supplemental pill. But what we're saying today, that maybe it's about something as simple as putting quality food in and just chewing it. A very simple solution to a complex problem. So would you say that that's a fair assessment of what somebody can start with to kind of make this work?
Absolutely. If you look at the natural nature of fruits and vegetables actually have the digestive enzymes in them made by Mother Nature to break those foods down. So if you leave lettuce or kale or fruit on the ground and you come back a couple, 2 or 3 days later, it's going to be degraded or broken down by the natural enzymatic processes of the fruit's own enzymes. Now, if you put a French fry on the ground, you're going to come back 3 months, 3 years later, and that French fry is going to still be there. So processed foods are very hard on the digestive system, number one, because they're processed, and number two, they don't have any enzymes to assist your digestive process in even getting some help.
I knew you were going to go there with the French fries. You know, we talked about that. You could take a French fry, a fast food French fry, put it in your glove box of your car, and come back 3 years later, and it's going to taste the same. That ought to tell you something, right? Okay, so we talked about this idea of a leaky gut or hyperpermeable membrane. You mentioned something earlier, this gastroesophageal reflux disease. What is that? I hear that a lot, and can you explain to everyone what that is and what's really happening?
Gastroesophageal reflux disease can be a lot of different things. It can be the fact that you've got a dysfunctional biliary system that you need to have a further GI workup. But for a lot of instances, it is simply the standard American lifestyle. We're eating too much, too long, too strong all the time. And we're overproducing acid to try to break down the things that the system is having trouble digesting. And if acid is overproduced on a regular basis, what happens is that acid starts to break down the mucosa of the stomach, otherwise known as peptic ulcer disease or ulcer or gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn. You've got acid that is refluxing or moving backwards up the windpipe. And when that happens, and it happens for a long period of time, that esophagus can undergo cellular change, and that can eventually become a cancerous lesion.
All about food. So how long, if a person has this condition, leaky gut or GERD, how long can we expect with good food and good nutrients to get some relief, some healing?
Peptic ulcer disease typically takes 3 months to turn around. I always say you've got to give things a little bit of time. Nutrition, once you get on the nutrition train, remember we're going to be on that for life, the new American lifestyle for life. So we still want to have outcome or expect results. If we're not getting good relief within a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, we may want to seek out medical help and attention. If we're having burning pain that's not going away, you're going to want to seek out a medical professional. But as you change your nutritional protocol, your gut should continue to get better and better because we're not overfilling it anymore. We're chewing our food and giving our stomach the relief that it actually needs in order to start the digestive process appropriately. And then if not, then we move on to the medical professional. And there are some instances where the overproduction of acid does require what we call proton pump inhibitors or acid modulators, medications that suppress acid production in order to heal an ulcer.
If we're talking about these things, these ulcers, these leaky guts, what are, just be plain for you, what are some common causes of that with the foods we eat?
The common causes of a leaky gut syndrome are going to be those things like the cayenne peppers, the caffeines, the processed foods that have a lot of preservatives in them, the things that can be very, very acidic. Also, a diet that has no fiber in it is going to begin to break that gut down because the gut requires good fiber to work against. Remember, cells in the digestive tissue are alive, and they, for their own very nature to survive, require certain things. And a couple of those things are fiber and healthy bacteria.
We've talked about this digestion process, and we haven't even got to the stomach yet. So this is just happening, from the mouth down a ways. So, understand that we're trying to get you to change things. And Dr. Michele said about 3 months to heal a peptic ulcer. I would say the same applies true to most healing process anyway, like a broken bone or a leaky gut. Give yourself some time. It took you time to break it. Let it heal up. So we see people all the time that may want to add glutamine, for example, to heal the mucosal line. They'll put that on there and they'll think, well, 3 weeks later, am I healed yet? Can I get off that now? No, it's not about that. It's about changing your life so you won't have to go through this stuff again. I don't want you living a life of rehabilitation or repair all the time. Let's be ahead of the game and stop this stuff before it happens, because I think we're going to be very, very much more benefited to do it that way than do it the other way. I mean, we've kind of cultured ourselves in a way to get sick and then go get fixed. But I think it's kind of a cool idea to not get sick.
To keep ourselves on the train and on the track all the time with a new American lifestyle.
I mean, we got to come back to the digestive process, because I knew we weren't going to have time. I want people to really understand what it really means going start to finish. So we're going to come back, we promise you, at some point in the near future. So just keep watching, we'll tell you. But trust me, we're going to come back to this at some future 4E TV session we have here, because we really want you to understand, not just from the mouth, but all the way through the stomach, the esophagus, the small intestine, even down to the absorption of this, and how to really work that, understand it. Because working knowledge is important. If you have knowledge and you put the correct use behind it, you have wisdom.
Yeah, our biggest point today was to make you aware of the stomach, the gut does not have a voice, and that a lot of the bowel issues that we have are actually our nutritional protocols or programs that we're actually taking in. And if you're having these symptoms, we might want to pay more attention to our nutritional plans and see what the offending agent might be. And then to go back and remember, chew your food. Your stomach doesn't have any teeth. And the process of digestion begins in the mouth.
It's amazing how God's principles line up with the principles in which He designed our body. What He started, He is going to complete. But when we mess it up, we divert that plan a little bit, just like we can mess it up from the start by not chewing our food and not taking the time to even eat and put the right foods in. So, you know, we want you to be informed. We want you to be educated. If you've enjoyed this today, I've enjoyed this today. This has been great. If you've enjoyed that, get on their websites and tell us that. We appreciate your prayers. Get on there and take the value pledge. Get our newsletter. You can follow us and stay connected. We want to stay connected with you. But we want to wish you a blessed day. Dr. Mark and Dr. Michele, we are out. God bless you.